This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and as you can hear, I am sick. My ears are somewhat blocked, so it's quite possible that I'm shouting, and apologies for that because I can't tell. I really can't tell. So it all started the other day. I had a scratch in my throat. I wore a mask because I was taking my mum for a scan, so I was like, let me mask up so I don't infect anyone. And I was like, oh, is it just because I've not drank enough today or whatever? But, that whisper of a little kind of scratch in my throat, the next morning, it was a roar. It just, as in, it was roaring and it was also raw. It felt raw, R-A-W, but it was also roaring, like R-O-A-R-I-N-G. Gosh, my head's totally gone. And, it was just kind of like my voice was worse today. My head, my TMJ, my jaw joint is aching, especially. I've been hanging upside down for that. And just all my joints are aching. And I know yesterday as well, I was kind of like, oh, do I need to stretch? What's going on? And I had to do stuff yesterday. I had to take my mum for a scan. So I went to the hospital. I was all masked up because I didn't want her to get anything. Didn't want any of the hospital staff to get anything. But today, I just wanted to stay in my blanket, So I kind of ignored notifications, plans. I did a couple of things that I had to do. But really, all I could hear was the sound of my own breathing, so hoarse. Like literally, some of this podcast is going to be like heavy breathing because my nose is just stuffed. So I'm kind of having to... I can breathe a little bit through my nose, but it's just weird. And it's strange, isn't it? I remember that I felt this when I had chicken pox because it's weird and I remember with the chicken pox having just a spot that was itchy. And as I was driving home, I remember seeing another spot and thinking, oh, that's interesting. That wasn't there before. And then by the next morning, there was like a whole, I don't want to use certain words, but there was there were a whole load of spots, basically. I'm trying not to use a particular word in case it flags something up. Anyway, and so it's just strange, isn't it? How, normally we live life and it's so fast, but it totally slows down when our bodies say, no more. And I had a nap this evening, or actually this afternoon, because I had a webinar and I basically I needed to rest a little bit before that. And I remember just, having a nap and then just seeing the sun just setting, through the blinds. And it's just so weird because it looks very, I don't know, such a warm golden kind of light, and it feels quite surreal. Now the thing is, I do feel as if I am shouting, and I'm just looking at the studio, and I apologies again because I feel I am shouting. Now the reason I say that it felt really surreal was because I had a dream once of a cousin who'd passed away, who was so dear to me. He was like a brother, and bless him, he was just so amazing. He was an ENT surgeon and he'd done a lot of free operations in the States, and basically he passed away. Anyway, the point is, I was really close to him, and I had a dream about him at one point where he was giving me some advice. And I remember I'd been thinking, oh, I really wish he was around so I could ask him whatever. And then I had a dream about him, and he basically gave me the advice that I had been hoping for, on that matter, rather, not the answer that I was hoping for. And it was really, really intense. It was a really intense dream, and the background was a similar color. It was kind of almost like, I don't want to say like a desert. It was kind of like this orangey warm glow. And for Muslims, we believe that, when you pass, there's this sort of place called the Barzakh where good people hang out, basically. And I've often wondered, was that a figment of my imagination, or was it him? Because Islamically, if you have an intense dream of someone, it can be that your souls have actually met, because when we're asleep, our souls actually go off somewhere and then they return to us. And if they're not returned to us, those are the people that pass away in their sleep. So that color always has a significant feeling for me, And then I was thinking of an aunt who'd passed away sort of years ago, but in June, and she had cancer. And I remember thinking, and she was young, and I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter what the weather's like outside, if life is fading from you, it must feel just so, I don't know, intense. And anyway, so it was that kind of speckled light, and it was just really just weird. And then, of course, my mum rang, and she was asking me, if I'd eaten, if I was feeling better. And my sister sent me a message as well, and another friend sent me a message which made me laugh, then cough. And, even while I was feeling sort of weak, I felt surrounded by those small kindnesses of love, that human ecosystem of care, which, I don't want to say it's invisible until you need it, but sometimes obviously, we're not sort of, I don't know, like the friend that I was texting, we don't text all the time, but I was texting because I'd used a mug that he'd given me, which was lovely. And so I thought I would send a little video. And so I guess, so it's just wonderful. But then that in turn made me feel really sad, because I felt so grateful, but equally I was thinking, I felt grateful because obviously I felt loved and cared for, but then equally I thought of those who don't have this and who can't get things. And I thought of this, and which is why I was speaking about chickenpox, because I remember when I had the chickenpox, I was so unwell. And I had like the world's top dermatologist looking out for me, and another GP friend, and they were both just checking up on me, even though one was on a cruise. And it was just so lovely. And I just thought of people who, I'm so blessed with my friends, but I thought of people who are coughing in tents, not even shelters, and not bedrooms, people who have nothing, people who are being attacked. And we all know that that's happening to so many people all over the world. People who are just whispering goodbyes, in languages that just, I don't know, drowned out by sirens or the sound of other things that are falling from the sky. A mum who's trying to soothe her child. I'd better not talk about this anymore, actually, because I will start crying, because I did start crying because I felt really emotional, because we do feel emotional when we're unwell. And this is just a cold that I've got, and yet people have lost everything, but not just everything materialistically. They have lost, like, literally, when I go down the street in my hometown, and if a shop has closed or a restaurant that's been there for years, I feel really sad. But what about those people who are, where everything has been destroyed by airstrikes, and where, I don't know, because in those situations, obviously disease is rampant, right? And illness generally anyway is universal. We all get sick. But comfort isn't. I remember somebody saying that they didn't realise what it was to have a broken bone until they'd broken a bone themselves, and they were actually an MP. And I remember just thinking, it was just the way this person said it. And I don't know, it really annoyed me. And I don't know, it just so many people don't get to heal in peace, and they don't even get to heal. For a lot of people, their illnesses and wounds, they just fester. Again, I'd better stop talking about this because I will start crying. But, you know, when you can't breathe through your nose, and for example, during COVID, we notice, don't we, what breathing means to us. I mean, I haven't been up a mountain, but if you go, actually, I have been up a mountain, but I can't remember because I was younger at the time. But the point is, if you are up a mountain and you notice that it's harder to breathe because you're not acclimatized, or just basically when you're bunged up, or if you're asthmatic or whatever, right, you notice what breathing means. Didn't it mean so much to us during COVID, right? When COVID was first experienced by us. And of course, when food tastes like cardboard, we remember that, like, taste is just such a miracle. And, you know, when people check up on you, you realize that love is just, you know, hidden in those ordinary calls, texts, you know, shared silences, and just, you know, my sister made some food for me, so I picked that up and it was so yummy. And, you know, it's just that when we're sick or when we're unwell, it really just strips us down, I think, to something very raw and honest. And I think this is the thing. Gratitude doesn't need grand gestures, does it? I mean, it's just an appreciation for those small, repeated kindnesses that we have been gifted with. And I realize that healing is a privilege. Not everyone gets the time, the space, or the peace for it. And, you know, I look at all those headlines and posts of hospitals turned to rubble, health centres turned to rubble, doctors unalived and things. And I think, and this is what I thought when I had the chickenpox, that I have medicine, I have warmth, I have safety, I can put the heating on high. And here I am complaining about a blocked nose, and I know I'm shouting, so I'm so sorry. And I think sometimes these things, it's similar to when I had a clinic for homeless people, that, you know, that realization doesn't bring guilt. It actually brings us perspective, because it's not about, oh, you know, because I mean, in a way, I suppose pain is relative, but it's about having mercy for others, right? It's about witnessing mercy. And I don't know, you know, I had that nap and I felt better, and I was texting my friend. And I think the thing is, it's so funny because I had a tech issue the other day, and actually I've had a tech issue this week on a particular software, and somebody actually checked in on me, and I said to that person today, thank you, you've got no idea how that meant. And, you know, this is the thing, you know, that, you know, it's so wonderful when people are lovely, and do we actually appreciate them? You know, do we appreciate them not for actually, you know, I didn't appreciate this particular person because she'd sent a message to check in on me, but it was because it's a particular project where the deadline is looming. But, you know, it's actually being grateful for being in the presence of someone who remembers, you know. And I think the thing is that when you are sick or when something goes wrong, that is when you see the world's heartbeat. It's made of people. And whenever I'm sick, I think of those who are out there trying to heal in chaos. And I think if my gratitude means anything, it's that quiet promise, right? That I'm going to do more when I'm well than maybe I did before. And, you know, again, I've always said this, check on a neighbour who might be lonely, donate something to an organisation, or just be kinder, because everyone's fighting a battle that often we can't see. So I'm still really tired and I'm going to go to bed, but I just find that, you know, I love speaking about self-awareness, and I did a talk about it and it was so great. And it's particularly wonderful because a lovely 17-year-old came to speak with me about it afterwards. And I thought, how beautiful. He is the next generation. It was just so lovely. But the thing is that, you know, when we think about awareness of being weak and knowing that we're held by love, luck, by the fragile grace, right, of being alive and being cared for by the grace of God, there's just such a blessing. And I think in that, there is everything. We are so blessed. So please, on that note, remember those who are suffering. And until the next episode, let's all create connection and not just change lives, but save lives. A PS, and yes, there is a PS. What I'd like to say is that the more that AI is coming out and everything is so polished, I feel very rebellious, and I feel like making things that even more raw, and that's why I'm on here just sounding awful, because I don't know, I just want to be really authentically human. So I'm shouting, I'm breathing heavily, I sound awful with my blocked up nose, and now for the first time ever in my croaky voice, I've stuck a PS at the end of my podcast. I used to love doing that in letters. I used to love writing letters and doing PS, PPS, PPPPS, and just, you know, I used to love doing that. Anyway, I have no idea why I tagged this on, but yes, I just did it as a state of rebellion, as an act of rebellion against AI and polished things. So there you go. See you next week. Take care of yourselves, and peace and love always.